So the first thing we have to do in order to work with our data in the using type transformations on data sets is load it in. Now for the RDDs, we were able to take our text files and map each line to something. But all the files that we were working with are, well, they're separated values, so they're either a CSV like this or a TSV for the series and the larger data file. In order to work with these files in Spark SQL using typed data, it's customary to use a case class. And so let's go with BLS typed. We'll just go with BLS typed, sure. Okay, and because I do intend to potentially make some plots with these. So what are some case classes that we could use? And I should probably make sure, actually I have case classes for the series and the data here. So it will just save me some time to copy those over. Thankfully they're in a separate package, so we don't have a conflict with the previously defined ones. And I need to load these in. Okay, well, I'm doing this with Spark, using Spark SQL. So one of the first things I need to do is define my Spark session, get the builder. I am, as usual, going to set my master to be local, and then create that. I will import all the implicits. I want to set the log level to be worn so that we don't get inundated, and let's make sure we stop it at the end. Okay, so now we're set up to actually read our data in. I can probably make another case class for the zip code data. I'll hold off and do that in a future video when we actually are ready to use that. For now, how about I read in the series data to start with. Now, this is where actually this case class, actually I'll start with the LA data because I realized that the series data, one of the things about reading things in with the RDD was we could transform stuff however we wanted. When we read in the series, I took column 0, 2, 3, and 6. And I threw away all the others. Because we're going to use Spark's reader to get this, that's not going to work so well. But fortunately, the large data file really has an ID, a year, a period, which by default is a string, and then the value. Okay. This period, we might find that we want that to be an int, and we'll talk about the challenges that would cause for us in the typed scenario. So I want to read this. So county data spark.read, exactly what I would have done for my data frames. I need to set some options here. This file does have a header. This file is delimited by tabs. And then we can try reading a CSV of, it is stored in data/la.data.64.county. And of course, if I want to see if that worked, I can call show on it. Now this, at this point, is going to read this in. Let's go ahead and run this. I'm not using the typed aspects of this. This is exactly what I would have typed in before using a data frame to pull in this data. And indeed, if I hover over county data, you'll see I have a data frame. Okay. In order to make this so it is a typed data set, I can call as, and I pass it the type that I want this to be, which is an LA data. Now, if I attempt to run that, sets up Spark, and it crashes. Okay. Turns out it doesn't have enough information. Remember when we were reading data frames previously, it really helped to have a schema. Fortunately, you can, so we need to provide a schema here. Unfortunately, we can get a schema built for us by Spark from the case classes, part of why we like to use case classes. So I am going to set the schema. There are two classes called encoders. We want the one that's in Spark SQL. And it turns out that case classes extend a type called product, and so we can say we're going to do an encoders product on LA data, and then we get the schema from that. And let me go ahead and hit carriage return here so that you can see the whole line there. Okay, let's see if that runs. So as before, we do a spark.read. We need to set the options for the CSV, the header, and the delimiter. But instead of defining a schema, and you might recall that writing the schema took, it was a fair bit of typing, I just allow a schema to be built from my case class. And if you look at what shows me, ID, year, period, value, these are exactly the members in my case class. They all got read in, everything's happy, and theoretically I'm good to play with this data. We'll come back, we'll see what we need to do for the series, because right now this case class does not match up closely enough with our data file. So we'll extend that, we'll load that in, and then we'll look at potentially putting those two together.